Welcome to 101. I'm Greg Bass, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. It's a big day here at PAC 14. They're all big days. We have Carl Anderton, our delegate. He's back from Annapolis when we want to talk about what happened in the 90-day session up there and talk about sort of the election front as we go into the summer. Welcome, Carl.
Thanks, brother. It's good to be home, man.
So you seemed like you had a great session.
Absolutely. I think, well, that's our best one yet. It was kind of neat because, they say when you go into the election year session, don't expect anything.
Right. They don't do anything because
Right.
it's an election year
Right.
and you don't want to take any chances. But this was a very aggressive legislature.
Absolutely. It was great. Everything that we put our hands on, we touched. As a matter of fact, in my jacket, I have the pen the governor used to sign the highway user revenue bill with.
Okay.
It's like I won't let it go.
Right.
And
that's a big issue for you when you're the mayor of Del Mar.
Right.
The state took so much of your road construction money, as
Right.
it did everywhere, and now we're finally starting to get a little of that back.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and that's why, that saga is still not finished. It's kind of like Star Wars. There's still more to come with that particular legislation. But we hit a point where 4 years ago I sat here and said one of my priorities was restoring monies that had been cut. And so we did that with the disparity grant funding, which we extended out another 3 years. We're working with Senator Mathias this year on that again. But then the highway user revenue bill was, something that all of us can see. It's tangible. It's our roads. It's our sidewalks. When people are riding around your neighborhood and you're seeing potholes and your sidewalks are crumbling. Up until this point, it had not been the town's fault. It's not Fruitland's fault or Salisbury's fault or Del Mar. It was the state had taken that money. Well, starting next year, that money will be back in place. Then it's the town's fault. But
Right.
until then,
Right, they have to decide where to use it best.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so, knocking on doors and saying, I wanted to go to Annapolis to bring back our road money, and to actually get to this point where it is coming back, it just
Right, and when you said that 4 years ago, I was
Right.
like, well, that's not going to happen.
right. It was we just kept pushing, and we kept one-on-one sitting down, no pun intended, or maybe pun intended, sitting down and talking with everybody, explaining, from a ground level, the importance of having that money brought back, and here we are, But it was bipartisan. I mean, I was the only Republican on the bill. Working with Delegate Pam Beidel from Anne Arundel County. Her and I have been working on this together. My committee chair, Kumar Barve from Montgomery County. The Speaker Bush, I saw him, we were having lunch, and he said, so what are you really hoping to get done this year? I said, I really want highway user revenues. He said, do you really want it? I said, man, I really, really want it. He said, I want it too. And I stood up and I said, I think I know what that means, But then it was, our colleagues on the Senate,
Right.
As well, with Senate President Mike Miller, he calls me the mayor every time. He says, hey, mayor, and you want that road money, don't you? I'm like, you know it. And so it was just all these things that came together. And of course, the governor set the table,
Right.
by increasing funding incrementally each year in his budget, so that way we knew the money was available. We just needed it locked in place. And so when we go back next year, we'll start working on a more permanent fix. This gives us 5 years level funding, something we haven't had in the past 10 years.
Right.
So, so Salisbury, for example, or Del Mar, all of us, can forecast out 5 years of street projects that they want to get done.
Exactly.
And so, it was really, really cool. But there were a lot of things that we worked on, Sunday sales for motorcycles and Wycomico, so we can
Right,
bring
which
back.
seemed like a minor thing, but
Yeah.
it affects the Rommels here in Salisbury.
Right.
Yeah.
They want to bring Harley Davidson from Delaware into Maryland.
Right.
It was another thing that we said we wanted to do. We've been losing businesses leaving Maryland, going to Delaware. So we wanted the opportunity to reverse that. And
Right.
so, we've shown that we can, we can get government out of the way. Now, if the county can work out what they need to do, then it should happen. and we'll have Harley Davidson back in Salisbury coming from Delaware, which is again, it's just I
Who would
tell
have thought?
you, if I had sat here 4 years ago and said, if we could do this, we could all the things that we had said we wanted to do, and if you had told me that in 2018 you're going to sit down and you're going to check all those boxes, I would have said, man, I mean, that's cool, but I don't know. But I mean, we're literally checking these boxes, and I think it's just because we don't give up.
Right.
We don't give up, and but we're not belligerent either. I mean, whoever has a good idea, we're going to champion it. Regardless of party affiliation. Whoever has a bad idea, we're going to work against it, regardless of party affiliation. It's whatever is the best thing for right here. That's my mindset, and so far it seemed to have done us well. Wins in the budget again. We're already working on next year's stuff. And so hopefully, we'll continue to build upon what we've achieved so far.
So you go to Annapolis and you're a novice. You're not like, you don't know like Mary Beth Carrozza knows it, or perhaps Jim Mathias, who had dealt with the General Assembly for years in their positions. But you go in there like all wide-eyed, bushy tail, and it seemed like you really didn't know anything when you got there, and now you're like the guy.
I don't know if I'm the guy or not, but
just how much you've grown, it just blows me away.
Well, I mean, I knew that, knowing, who we were coming behind, and Norm's been great. We've had a lot of conversations in the past few years, especially
Your
about
predecessor, Norman
Yes.
Conway, who you
know,
defeated. Go ahead, say
right.
it.
No,
Okay.
well, I mean,
We all love Norm. He's been there
advice
too long.
on how to navigate, Annapolis and stuff.
And is he helpful?
And yeah, absolutely. Anytime I ask him a question, he's quick to give me an answer. And
Does he ever call like unsolicited with advice?
no,
He would never do that. Yeah.
no. It's I would seek it out, and one of the best piece of advice he gave me was to get to know all the state troopers on the highway. So him and I have a thing. We apparently like to get to Annapolis in a hurry. But it's been really cool seeing how everything has just come together. And like you said, we walked in and we're like, okay, where do I sit down? To now, I mean, there's still a lot more to learn. Don't get me wrong, but I think now, we're at a spot that we've shown that we can make it happen. And it's been interesting just going up. I followed my grandmother's advice. She said, just be yourself. Don't be fake. People see through fake. You're not better than anybody. Nobody's better than you. You're the same guy today that you were when I was kicking you in your butt in my backyard. So,
Right.
And so that's, all the bright lights and all that mess, it doesn't mean anything to me, and I don't get lost in all that. I just, whatever I can do to make sure that you're having the best life you want. That's all that matters. The rest is all secondary. That was one of the things I had learned, especially on, my paternal side, is, my namesake, everybody call him Captain Anderton, is that he was very well entrenched in the community here. And I was little, I didn't understand that, when I'm sitting out back and he's, having a cigar and there's people around. I don't know who, Frank Perdue is or whatever at that time, but now I'm like, man, I could have really took advantage of these conversations if I had known,
Right.
But being 6 or 7 years old, you're not, But it was neat. Every door we'd knock on, somebody would have a story to tell us or something. And I'm just fortunate to have the foundation laid for me that I did. And so now it's my job to raise that foundation for my kids and their kids to come behind me. And, it's very humbling, it is. And it's just, I keep saying all the time, that how blessed I am to be able to serve you and my other neighbors in Annapolis. And, it's just every morning I wake up, do the same thing, 6 a.m., grab my phone, see what we missed overnight, what we can start working on. And I still get goosebumps every time I walk in the State House or somebody calls me up. We try to make it a priority. And I can tell you the volume of calls from 2015 to 2018 has grown exponentially because more and more people can equate me with being able to be a conduit between them and solving a problem. And like I said before, my wife doesn't grocery shop anymore. She sends me out. It used to be 20 minutes.
Right.
It's several hours now. She's like, well, see you tomorrow, you know. But I don't mind that because she knows I won't stop.
You
When
need
somebody
it.
comes up to me and
Right.
talks to me, that's my boss.
Right.
You don't cut your boss off and say, I got to go.
Right.
You get fired that way. So, yeah, so when somebody, you know, we'll sit there and you know, we stay as long as needed because that's who I work for. But session was great. You know, we're back home. You know, we're actually, me and Bunky Luffman. Bunky Luffman was my campaign manager, was deputy mayor in Del Mar, was on the council when I was in Del Mar, and worked for the governor as his intergovernmental liaison for the Eastern Shore.
Right.
Now he's the regional campaign field director for the governor's campaign. And
Okay, I didn't know he left. Okay, he's over on the campaign
and
now.
so I'm working with him now on the governor's campaign on the Eastern Shore, like from Cecil County to Somerset. And so it's really neat being out, meeting folks from all different parts of the shore, and just hearing how similar issues are in Cecil County as they are in Wicomico, but then how different they are as opposed to Kent County and Wicomico. But you know, it's been a neat opportunity again to grow further and learning how to better serve everybody here in Annapolis. But so this summer should be kind of fun, dealing with working with the governor closely on his reelection, and you know, and then our reelection here and everybody else's campaign that's going on. You know, it's going to be a fun summer.
The Democrats run the legislature. There's no doubt about that. It's a unique situation with a Republican governor. He's a very moderate Republican governor. So many of the Republicans from the lower shore who go to Annapolis, they end up kind of edgy. They don't really get a lot of accomplished because they're not part of the process. They're considered the enemy by the people who are really in charge up there. But you've got loyalty to your committee chairman. You've got some loyalty to Speaker Bush. You talk about them in friendly terms. You're able to actually engage them. Is it something that where you've like kind of overcome the party situation, or is it just who you are, or it's best for what your constituents? We'll talk about that a little bit.
Well, you know, I mean, when I was the mayor, I mean, there was no party affiliation, you know, in local government. It's, you know, it didn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. Matter of fact, I couldn't tell you the people who were on the council with me in Del Mar what their party affiliation was. It just never came up. Same thing with MML, working through the Maryland Municipal League, you know, with 157 mayors and 600 other council members. I never knew who was a Republican or a Democrat, so I've just that's my mindset. That stuff doesn't, it serves a purpose when it needs to, but it doesn't need to serve a purpose all the time.
But when you got there, did they treat you like you were a crazy right-wing Republican from the lower shore?
You know, I don't know, to be honest with you. Things happened so fast when we got there, and I jumped right in with issues that I thought would benefit the county, you know, like education funding and things of that nature that a lot of folks in the Republican caucus wouldn't support. I would support because, you know, I don't think you can fund education enough, in my opinion. I think it's the best gift that we can give our kids. And so, you know, with me jumping across the aisle, if you want to say, you know, I think they just saw right away. They're like, man, what's up with this guy? You know, and that's fine. That's the way I want it. I don't want to be pigeonholed or you know, into a certain circle and you're stuck in here and you're bouncing around. I want to be able to do what I need to do to help you, you know, and I don't think I'm doing the best I can for my neighbors if I'm stuck in a corner, you know, because then you're just getting whatever is thrown in that corner. I want to be out and I want to be getting everything that we can and doing everything we can, you know, like the disparity grant funding, the highway user revenues, pharmacy benefit manager revisions and things like that. You know, those things matter, you know, and so, yeah, I don't really know what they think of me sometimes. You know, I mean, because the two caucuses meet in these big rooms right across the hall from each other, and every week when we're going, you know, the speaker or somebody say, "Hey, you sure you don't want to come in here?" And then, you know, Nick Kipke's over here saying, "Man, you belong over here." You know, it's just kind of funny. You know, one week I set a chair in the middle and just kind of sat in the hallway.
So there's a big move in Wicomico right now. Business leaders, people I've never seen unite on anything, coming together with the idea that we really need to make our education here in the county a jewel, whatever that means in terms of funding programs that make sense for what the needs are. Just attended a thing last night, the Wicomico Education Foundation.
Right.
What a great event that was. I mean, people were really fired up, got their checkbooks out. They're not going to solve the education problem right there in that room with checkbooks, but it's a symbolic thing. So there seems to be a movement on this thing. What, as a leader, where are you on this? How are you going to help lead it?
We're just a conduit. You point us in a direction, and we run. And I think, like I said, I don't think you can fund education enough properly. We shouldn't be wasting money, of course. But I think that, the greatest gift you can give, of course, is a high education. And when you're attracting businesses and people to your area, I mean, they're looking at your streets, they're looking at your sidewalks, your parks. What can I do on the weekend? But the first thing they're looking at is where my kid's going to go to school.
Yeah.
And so, that's something I think that's kind of been neglected. And I'm glad that the community in general is picking that piece up and running with it. I think it's great. Same thing happens in Delmar. There's a foundation for education in Delmar that goes to the elementary school and the high school, and so I think it's a great idea. I think every county should be doing that. That's a great way to help supplement funding. But I think
Well, you mentioned Delmar.
Sure.
Delmar is one of those towns where when people think of Delmar, they're like, okay, Delmar, but they've got a great school system. You always hear that. It's a great school system at Delmar.
Right, absolutely, and we take pride in that, and
it's complicated,
right,
with the state and the Maryland. I mean, with the high school being in Delaware
Right.
and the elementary school being in Maryland, and there's a shared situation. You can go there, you can go to Y-High, whatever you want to do, but.
Yeah.
But still, people love that Delmar education experience. Somehow, the communities come together and made that a priority.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's great seeing it across the county now as well, and I hope it's something that just picks up and just grows. And it starts with the top. I mean, the superintendent we have, that's a home run.
You feel pretty good about her?
Absolutely, she's awesome. Anytime I need anything, when I'm in Annapolis, we had a bill that dealt with some gap funding, until the Kerwin Commission comes through. It's this
Right.
whole new funding mechanism. It's going to come in place in a couple of years. But I called the superintendent on a Tuesday evening. I said, hey, there's a bill hearing tomorrow. Could you come up and testify on how important this would be for the county? She cleared her schedule and was up there the next morning testifying. Great.
Right.
And I had people coming up to me saying, that's your superintendent? And I'm like, well, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I picked her.
Yeah, but they were really impressed, you
Yeah.
know, and that's awesome. And when you're up there during session and somebody from home comes up, it's like homecoming, It's like I see my mom.
Right.
I mean, not quite like my mom, but but it's awesome when people from home come up, and so when she comes up, it's like, it's like, oh, it's great, And so when you have folks from across the state saying, man, your superintendent is lights out. I mean, that's just a cool feeling, and it's just a moment of pride there when you're in that 90-day stretch. But, she's awesome. I mean, everybody locally is awesome. Anytime I've needed anything from anybody here, I mean, they've been on point. Anybody. It's been incredible. From the sheriff with, law enforcement issues, I can text him in the middle of the night. The mayor, John Cannon's been great anytime I've needed anything. It's just been awesome. I mean, the folks here have been great, with giving us feedback in Annapolis, because a lot of times it's like you got 20 minutes.
Right.
I mean, these bills are coming at you, and I see
And they do that on purpose.
They do, but we found a way around that. I think we have so many members from the Lower Shore, and I think we've been kind of clustered on a couple committees, and there are a couple of committees that are left without any representation. So I've asked that after the elections that we kind of get redispersed.
Right.
So that way we have somebody on each of the committees from right down here. So that way we have a better feel locally of what's going on these committees with some of these bills, and I think it would make us that much better going forward. It's been kind of neat, when you get there and you see everybody has their little niche, and I guess I'm kind of like a shop broom. I just kind of gather it all, and I play in everybody's little thing, And,
Well, you're known for your bromance with the governor.
Oh, that's my man. Yeah.
I try to imagine if Martin O'Malley was the governor, it'd probably be the same thing. But,
Yeah.
but wow, what a great relationship you have with that guy.
He's so cool, man. Just as a person, aside from politics. I mean, if he was just a guy, that was just a real estate guy or whatever, I'd still hang out with him. I mean, he's just a fun guy to be around. He makes me laugh, and you know, he laughs at me, so it's great. But no, he's just a really cool, down-to-earth guy that you'd have over on a Sunday watching football and just laugh at all day. You know, he's just a normal guy. It's just, and he really, what you see when he's out campaigning and everything. I mean, that's really him. He's just not some, you know, stuffy shirt kind of guy, and you know, it's just, I don't know. I just think he's cool with somebody that I'm probably going to hang out with for the rest of my life, you know, after all this is done.
But when you think about it, he doesn't need to spend any time with you, some lower shore Republican guy, but he really courts you.
Well, I don't know about
Well, you know what I mean?
courts
What you think
right,
matters
sure.
to him.
Yeah, right. Well, and I think he's that way with everybody to an extent.
Yeah.
And you know, I just think he generally wants to know what's going on all across the state, and so, you know, it's just, you know, anytime I need anything, I can just call him up, and it happens, you know. And so, I mean, I couldn't have asked to make this transition, you know, public service wise to the state level, to have a better partner in the governor's mansion for success.
Right.
You know, if it had been anybody else, I don't know if we would have achieved everything that we have.
Right.
You know, but with having him there, it's kind of like, you know, he's like, man, whatever you need, you know. And so we said, okay, this is what we want. You know.
It looks like he's cruising to re-election. No Republican since the 40s in Maryland has ever been re-elected, so that's going to be epic if and when that happens. But you yourself, you're in a situation where no one filed to run against you. What happened there?
I got to tell you, I mean, I've had a lot of humbling experiences in the past 4 years. That one is the top. You know, I mean, clearly. I mean, it's just, I sat there, you know, when the final list came out, and I said, what? Nobody? But, you know, the governor was one. He said, man, he said, you bust your hump, man.
Right.
He said, everybody sees you out busting your hump. You're not pigeon. They can't call you this or that because you're not this or that, you know, and you're just, you know, you're doing the best you can, and you shoot it right down the middle the way it should be. And it's similar to what he's doing.
Right.
You know? I mean, there are votes, there are things that he supports that, you know, people on the shore don't like. But then there are things he supports that people, you know, in Montgomery County don't like. So that's okay. You're not supposed to get everything you like in the real world,
Right.
you know. But you look at the overall picture, you know, and you say to yourself, you know, can we live with this for another 4 years? And, you know, obviously with the governor, yeah, it's a no-brainer. I mean, you know, he's doing, you know, I'm not losing any money out of my pocket, you know, with him being there, and that's what matters. Actually, I'm gaining. So, you know, if we put somebody else in there, I guarantee you the first thing that's going to happen is they're gonna just reach right in your pocket and start taking more out instead of reallocating what's already there like this governor did.
So your predecessor, he was in there for 30 years. He had lots of elections where he was not challenged, and part of the rap on him was that he didn't keep trying. You know, like he didn't go out and present himself again as a candidate every year like he needed to. So have you learned from that, or is that true? Or
honestly, I couldn't answer that. I don't know if that's true or anything. I only know my way, and my way is, man, I have far exceeded expectations set out for me, so I know in order for me to continue serving my neighbors, I got to stay out there and just keep working. And so, you know, we haven't stopped. We've been knocking on doors ever since the election. I come home during session on the weekends and knock on doors on the weekends, and so we're still doing that, and we're going to keep doing it. I want to make sure everybody knows that if they need anything, we're there, and that's all that matters. The rest is all just secondary. It's just if you need me, I got you.
Right.
You know, if you need me. Now, I might not be able to fix it,
right.
but I'm gonna give you all I've got, and so that's the whole point in all this. And you know, I'm blessed to have what it looks like another 4 years to continue growing and learning.
Amazing? Yeah.
And it's awesome. I mean, I literally pinch myself. I'm like, am I still sleeping? You know, I don't know. I think that being able to serve your neighbors is probably the greatest gift you can give anybody. And other than education,
Right.
you know. So I'm giving a lot of gifts this morning.
That's good.
with you,
That's
but
the
yeah.
gift-giving mode.
That's right. It's a gift that keeps on giving.
So when you're out there, what are people saying? What's on their minds right now? Councilman told me the other day, everyone's yelling at him about ditches and flooding.
Yep, getting a lot of that now.
What are you hearing?
Getting a lot of that now, and so I give them the county executive's number.
Because it's not a state issue.
Right. So there are a lot of issues with drainage, and of course that was an exponential amount of rain.
Right.
It's not a typical Friday rain, but you do when those things happen, you do see your shortfalls, and there's a lot of those issues throughout our district that need to be addressed, and it's the same thing. When's the county going to start growing like the rest of the state? Has that perception the state's really growing, but we're kind of being drugged behind. And I remind them, at the state level, we're doing all we can. We've passed some legislation to offer tax credits for business to expand to the county, but none of that happens unless the county does their part.
Right.
They have to offer some incentives too. Especially if you want to put a business in Fruitland, Salisbury, Delmar, it's a 3-tier tax system.
Right.
It's municipal taxes, county taxes, and state taxes. So you cut some state taxes, you still have the other two that have to work together. And so,
right.
We're doing our part at the state level, but the local part needs to match as well. And when that happens, you'll really see some things take off. I believe it. I really believe it. I think this is a great place to work, live, and play, and so everything's there. We just gotta reel them in. So it's kind of like just an example. I used the Washington Nationals overpaid for Jason Worth, who was an outfielder a while ago, but now other players see that and they say, "Whoa, man, they're serious about winning.
Right.
Well, I want to go play there." And now look, they're in the playoffs every year. They're always pegged to go to a World Series, And so, I think the same thing has to happen here. We have to go get somebody, bring them in. That way everybody else sees, whoa, man, they're not kidding. It's not just billboards saying we're hiring. It's like, wow,
right.
They're really, So, I'm hoping that those are conversations that will come up and we'll see some things like that happen here locally because, you always want the best for your neighbors. And so, I think that's what it is.
Will you want to be county executive someday? There's been talk of that.
Me?
Yeah.
That's crazy, isn't it? What a summer.
Just how people I've never heard you say it, but I hear people say he should think about that.
Right. Yeah, why not at some point? I mean, I think it would be really cool to see what we could do. I mean, it's the same thing when we ran for mayor in Delmar is, we want the opportunity, and the first thing we did was a street project that had been set on the shelf since the 1960s, and then we built a police station and we did refurbs
Great
all
police
across
station.
Yeah, no debt,
Yeah.
and so, I think, why not have that opportunity at the county level? I think we could do some really good things. And, you have to have somebody who wants to think outside the box a little bit and is not afraid to really be out there. And I don't think the role of the county executive is to be sitting in the office all day. I think the county executive is your county salesman. So the county executive needs to be out. I've brought 3 different businesses here in 4 years looking to expand, and we just can't seem to get the pieces to connect. But that's a conversation for another day. I know that, there's a county executive election happening this year. You have Jack Heath, the city council president, running against, Bob Culver, the county executive now. So that'll be a time to see,
Sure.
where things lie.
More water to go under the bridge.
Yeah, but what? Yeah, it'd be kind of cool someday, sure. But right now, I love working with this governor, and I love answering the phone when people need me.
And you're young. You just turned 45.
Yeah, I'm 45. I still feel like I'm 18 in my head, man.
My shoes are 45, so you have a long way to go.
I hope I look better in your shoes, man.
All right, you're famous for get a hold of me anytime. How can people get a hold of
Absolutely,
you?
man. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and Carl Anderton Jr. 443-359-1335 is my cell phone number, and I'm sure that they'll put the email address and stuff at
We'll do
the
that.
lower third of the screen. And but yeah, anytime you need anything, I'm right here. It's a humble and an absolute honor.
He's our local delegate. He's Carl Anderton. We're thrilled whenever he comes back from Annapolis and fills us in on all the stuff he got to see up there. Thanks for being here today.
Right on, brother.
I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent Newspaper. Another edition of 101 right here on Pack 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and one-on-one. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.